Have you filled in your census? Have you filled in your census?
No.
No?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well done. So
Loyal
right,
servant
actually.
of the state.
Well, this Sunday is National Census Day, when we're all meant to fill in the form and send it off, except for Peter Hitchens, it seems. The government argues the survey is needed to provide valuable information to help them plan for the future and work out where best to spend taxpayers' money. But for the Freedom of Information campaigner Heather Brooke, it's an unnecessary intrusion by the state into our private life.
This is the census, and we've all received one of these in the post. We've got until March 27th to fill it out. If we don't fill it out, it's a criminal offence and we can be fined by the government. Now, this is not just names and addresses, but you can see it's a really thick document. It's 32 pages, and the problem I have with it is the type of intrusive questions that it asks. Some of these questions are, I just don't see what the government needs to know these things for. So, for example, your ethnic group, whether you're married or in a civil partnership, which is effectively your sexual orientation. And there's even this completely bizarre question about your central heating. And the point is, just because this is meant to be safe in the government doesn't mean it's safe. As soon as they collect it, it can be leaked, it can be sold. So if we really want to be secure about our personal information, then it's better just not to give it at all. One of the main reasons we're told we have to fill out this census is because it's vital for government spending allocation. Now, what evidence there is for this, I've not seen, and no one's presented that yet. The other thing is that the data is about 2 to 3 years old before it becomes usable. Now, any business that relied on old data like that would go bankrupt. This census is costing over £300 million, and that's public money. But is this a public resource? Well, I don't think it is, because in fact, members of the public can't see the results of this census for over 100 years. And there are already things that are public resources, like the Electoral Register, and yet MPs have actually voted themselves to be not on the Electoral Register, because they think that's an invasion of their privacy. So why is it that it's one law for MPs who don't want to be on the Electoral Register, and yet for the rest of us, we have to fill in this giant form?
And Heather Brooke is with us now. Hello, welcome to the programme. But are you actually advising people not to fill in this form and then break the law?
No, I mean, people can do what they want, but I've raised the points that I think are of concern there, which is that it's a huge amount of money. There's no real evidence put forward as to why we need to fill this out, and there's a number of privacy concerns that I think we should all have about the information that's collected, how it's collected, and who can have access to it.
Well, in terms of why, I mean, I've got the briefing, so you'd expect them obviously to be setting out the reasons from the Office for National Statistics, and it says, you know, an accurate population count helps the government to calculate the grant it allocates to each local authority. You know, the data collected and analysed is used by health and social services, information about housing and so on and so forth. I mean, it seems to have a fairly good basis for why that information is important, because regions around the country then have money allocated to them based on that. The number of people,
Well,
how poor or how wealthy they are, and so on and so forth.
The point I was making there is that the data is already outdated by the time it's collected. It takes about 2 years for all that data to be collated and made useful. And also, there's no accuracy measurement on that census. I mean, people can put whatever they want. You can see that in religion, people have put Jedi warriors. So, you know, how we can have a lot of faith in the accuracy of that information.
Is it, though, I mean, you say it's an intrusion and you're worried about how it's stored, but do you actually mind the fact that that sort of information, bar a couple of the questions that you think are too intrusive, that the information could play an important role in terms of government trying to assess the population, the makeup of it, and social and economic conditions?
What my concern always is about what I'd call information asymmetry. It's where the government gets to know information that the rest of us don't have access to. And it's where we don't have any control over our own personal information. So in principle, no, I'm not against information being out there, but I think what we need to have we need more detail about why is the government collecting this, who is going to have access to it, is it right that Lockheed Martin has access to it, but not the British public?
I mean, David Orange, there's a point there. I mean, you know, by the time it's collated, it's 2-3 years out of date. You know, the fact it is expensive and what, you know...
By far and away, Heather's strongest point, in my opinion, is the last point about who has access to it and whether or not there's a sufficient explanation. There are loads of academics sitting out there at the moment and people who have to be involved in resource allocation hitting their hands against their heads saying, for heaven's sake, this kind of information is the most useful we can get on who the British really are at any one time. And if you want to try and plan what it is that we've got to do, even if it is 2 years out of date, it still gives you a very big trend idea from the last census, and the census following will give you even further trend information, so you'll see where the population is going. And you want people to make decisions on the basis of evidence, not on the basis of their kind of instinct about what's happening in the country.
Yes, and I mean, in that sense, I mean, it obviously is providing vital information and being done on such a large scale. It'd be impossible to collate in any other way, wouldn't it, Peter Hitchens?
That's if you believe governments are any good at doing anything, which of course they're not.
OK, well,
if you sent the government out to buy you a loaf of bread, it would
should run your army.
It would come back 6 weeks later with a stale cake.
I take your point, but let's assume that they do provide that level of service, and that's what they're supposed to be doing. Isn't it the best way to collate that information?
Well, they should restrict the information to the absolute basic minimum.
Right.
I really do object to being asked my religion by a stranger.
Why?
Because it's none of their business, and I also very, very strongly
object. But do you object to us knowing?
I very strongly object because
what the religious beliefs of the British are.
I don't want to know what other people's religious beliefs are unless they wish to tell me.
No, in general.
There was a fine old expression.
It's not about people. It's in general.
Fallen from use in this country.
Do you object to knowing
in the days
what
since
the
people
religious?
Like Mr. Aronovich became influential, which was nosy Parker. It was a common expression of discontent of people who poke their noses into other people's business. They can know how many of us there are. They absolutely shouldn't be asking questions about our ethnic origin.
What exactly is
something
the
in me
purpose?
absolutely revolts against that.
I mean, Heather's asking
Really
the purpose. Is the purpose from reading the information that I've had there from the ONS? The purpose of the information is in order to look at the makeup of the population. How many people are of a certain religion? How many people are of an ethnic minority? Because maybe it does help.
Who wants to know? Why is it his business?
That is the point. Why does the government need to know this? I can see why they need a population number, but why do they need to know the religion? Why do they need to know the ethnic makeup? I mean, if somebody could provide some evidence as exactly how does that affect spending allocation, I would like to know, because I think, yeah, those issues about religion are personal, and the issues about your sexual orientation are personal. And the problem is that, OK, we may trust the government now, but you never know what's going to happen in the future. And in the history...
No one's interested in what you are personally. Nobody cares
but I don't
what
think
Peter
true,
is.
because
What Peter is in terms of religion. What they care about is how many religious people there are. Is how many religious people there are in the country, and of what kind.
That all depends on where the information ends up. As soon as government information was computerised, you had no idea where it would end up. People who you might not want to know will find out things about you which you might not.
Well, I'm going to have the final word here then on a bit of maybe propaganda from this, saying any personal information that people give us, that's the ONS, is strictly confidential, is protected by the law, will not be disclosed to other government departments or marketing companies. So let's hope that reassures.
Never believe anything until it's been officially denied.
Thank you, Heather Brooke.